One of the worst things that I can think that can happen to teachers is when a kid gets hurt. Um, and sadly, when kids get hurt, sometimes their families sue. And then you find yourself in the really hard situation of one of your kids that you care about has gotten hurt, and now you're in a court of law and you're having to defend your action. Well, one thing that you really need to know is what I heard one legal expert call the 12 good people principle. The decision that you made at the time when that kid got hurt is going to be looked at by 12 good people, the 12 good people of a jury, and they are going to examine your decision with perfect 20/20 hindsight. It almost seems unfair, doesn't it? You're a busy teacher. You've got over 100 kids, classes coming in and out, hectic. You're making what some people have documented as thousands of decisions today, and what can happen is sometimes in a split second you turn your back or something goes wrong, and that's when that kid gets hurt, and it just almost seems unfair because you were trying to do your best, and then 12 good people examine your decision, and they examine it with perfect 20/20 hindsight, and they look at you, they look at what you did and decide whether you were negligent or not. So what do? Well, two principles I'd like you to think about, and that is, are the decisions you're making reasonable and prudent? Those are the two big words and the two big principles that I want you to consider as you consider planning your classroom and implementing what you do. First, was your decision at the time reasonable? Did it make sense? That's what those 12 good people will think about first, is, was it good practice? Was it a good thing for kids? Did it make sense? Had you examined all the issues? Had you thought it through? They wouldn't think it would be reasonable for you to say at that time, I just never really thought that would happen. Remember the legal principle of in loco parentis. You are, in the law's eyes, that child's parent at that time. Parents entrust you with their children when they send them to school. And legally, you have to make reasonable decisions. The second thing is prudent. Were you prudent in what you decided? Had you thought ahead? Had you planned? Had you planned for contingencies? Had you planned for what if something bad were to happen? What if things went wrong in the science lab you were doing? What if a kid acted like a kid when they were going up the bleachers and pushed another kid? Had you thought ahead? Were you being prudent in your care with children? 12 good people examining what you do with perfect 20/20 hindsight. What do? Well, the biggest thing is you think ahead. You think through, you make a plan, you plan your classroom environment, being reasonable and prudent with all of your decisions. And of course, you document to make sure that you've trained the kids, they know your expectations, they know what you say about safety, and that you've documented, because if you do end up in that court of law, you want to be able to show that it was just a fluke, it was just a freak, or that the child made a bad decision even after you had trained. 12 good people thinking about your decisions with perfect 20/20 hindsight. Keep that in mind.